What are kaiju? With Godzilla vs. Kong being the success that it is, a lot of new people have joined the fandom, and that is awesome. For people just starting out or longtime fans of the genre, let's take a closer look at these fantastic beasts. Now, the Wikipedia definition of kaiju is a Japanese genre of film and television featuring giant monsters. There are films and monsters that are considered kaiju that weren't created in Japan, like Pacific Rim and the MonsterVerse films. That is one point of disagreement amongst the fandom. All fans agree that the MonsterVerse films are considered kaiju, but some question whether or not Pacific Rim or the non-MonsterVerse King Kong would be considered kaiju. Take an example, the Peter Jackson King Kong. The Wikipedia page does have Kong, so I throw him in there. When it comes to some movies, I guess that is subjective on what you want to consider kaiju. For myself, I consider all giant monster films made in Japan kaiju films. Hey, some call me crazy, I consider the Monster Hunter film a kaiju movie. Toho did play a big role in that film. Now let's take a look at some of the great films that cemented the genre. We gotta start with the big dog, Gojira. Now this film will vary greatly depending on if you watch the Japanese Gojira or the American Godzilla. Gojira was created in 1954 and directed by Ishiro Honda. This film at its core is a look at the damage of nuclear weapons, Godzilla himself being a representation of the fallout of the atomic bomb dropped on Japan. Then there's the internal struggle with Dr. Serizawa and the oxygen destroyer he creates. The oxygen destroyer has the capabilities to be more devastating than any nuclear weapon, and he does not believe that mankind can be trusted with this kind of weapon. But it may be the only thing that can help them destroy Godzilla. The American version is edited and has a lot of the anti-nuclear message removed. Toho went on to create other great kaiju like Mothra, Manda, King Ghidorah, and Rodan. They also created several Godzilla sequels that span decades, comics, action figures, shirts, and the list goes on. Then about a decade later, we have another player enter the game. That player is Gamera. Gamera the Giant Monster was released in 1965 and has a very similar backstory to Godzilla. He is a prehistoric creature, and he kind of looks like a giant turtle. He was also mutated by nuclear weapons. Gamera went on as well to spawn several sequels, comics, and other merchandise. Here in America, we had our own giant monster films that some may consider kaiju films, and some might not consider them. But one of our very first was King Kong. The original King Kong was released in 1933 and was directed by Marion Cooper. The film was praised at the time for its use of stop-motion animation. This film was also deemed culturally and historically significant by the Library of Congress in 1991. Even Rotten Tomatoes ranked this film as one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Kong is one of the most recognizable movie monsters in the United States. Kong, like the others, had numerous sequels and even got to face off twice with Godzilla. Throughout the 1950s, we had the giant ant film Them, followed by the giant tarantula film, you guessed it, Tarantula. Or let's not forget my personal favorite, The Deadly Mantis. In 1998, we had our first shot at making a Godzilla film. And while some have their own opinion on this film, whether it was a good movie or a bad movie, to me, I was excited to see it as a kid. It was a bit too different than the Godzilla I was used to, so I don't really consider it Godzilla. I thought it was great when Toho purchased this kaiju and named him Zilla. I thought that was a good move. And then there's Cloverfield. For all of you who've seen that movie, I just want to say I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Some people enjoy it. I thought the movie was incredibly bad, but that's just my personal opinion. I wish I could show all the kaiju films, but to sum it up, kaiju are giant Japanese monsters. I would recommend trying to watch as many as you can get your hands on. HBO Max has some great ones on there currently, and Crackle is known to have Godzilla films on there quite a bit. As always, if you like this video, please drop a like and consider subscribing for more of my content.